Good morning, everyone. Today I wanted to do a little segment on how to compost at home. This is a very doable process for everyone, and it enables us to divert a waste stream that would ordinarily go into a landfill and return that to the earth and recycle the nutrients and minerals into a very rich, nutrient-dense, fertile black gold, it's called, just meaning that it's soil that we can then reuse in our garden. So the basics of compost. We are mixing biodegradable things together to essentially feed microorganisms that are living amongst us in the soil all around. They're ever present and we just can't see them. So they need food, water, shelter, heat, just like any other living being. And what we're doing is supplying a food source so that they can eat, metabolize the nutrients, the minerals that are in the food, break it down, and reproduce. So when they break down those minerals and nutrients, they become bioavailable for plants. So then when we apply this broken down compost, this finished compost that has the texture of coffee grounds, when we apply it in the garden, then the plants are able to take up those nutrients. Where before, like say, if we have a banana peel and we just throw it in the garden, it's not seeped into the ground. The plant is not able to take up those nutrients until the microorganisms feed off of it and break it down. So it's really just breaking down the components into smaller and smaller particles that then the plant can use. And the plant, once it uses that, it grows bigger, stronger, and it's able to feed us if it's a vegetable or fruit that's edible for humans. So it's this whole cycle, this whole process, and the plants and the microorganisms are very much linked together. They're signaling to each other, and that's a whole nother chapter called symbiosis. But it's very beneficial to create our own compost and grow our own food. So I'll show you guys some more of how this process works. So as you can see, I've dumped my most recent batch of kitchen scraps and whatever else in my house that's biodegradable. So I have some cardboard, paper towel rolls, cotton swabs, newspaper. So it's not just food stuffs that I put in here. And I'm starting to develop this bed. It's situated between two tree trunks that have fallen, and it creates almost this channel, this kind of trough. So I'm filling it in with, here I've already got some compost covered by leaves, and I'm making my way towards this other end. And if you'll notice, there are a lot of sticks and debris in here. And this is another concept called hugelkultur, where we bury carbon-rich branches, logs, twigs with our compost and with other soil. And over time, those branches will break down and provide carbon to the microorganisms so that they can eat on that for a long time. So this is a bit of a slower process, but we're not in a hurry here, so I've chosen to backfill with all of this debris. And it clears up the woods as well at the same time. So here we will cover our vegetable scraps with a layer of these decaying leaves from last fall, just so that the animals don't get at them, and also to keep our ratio of carbon to nitrogen healthy and balanced. And typically we want about 25 to 30 carbon to 1 nitrogen. So remember, our greens are nitrogen heavy and our browns are carbon heavy. And then we'll just kind of spread that around and tamp it down. Might put this cardboard on as a little layer, and there we go. So here is a good example of a nearly finished compost pile. This is just about ready to go into the garden, and we'll sprinkle it on as a top dressing to our existing beds, and it will add a lot of nutrients to the soil. So formerly this looked like a big pile of kitchen scraps and dried up leaves, A lot of branches and twigs are still in here because these take a lot longer to break down, but we'll be able to filter those out and sort through. But generally, this is good looking soil. The color is a little bit light, indicating that it's a little sandy, but it's a good texture. It's crumbly, but it also sticks together when you squeeze it, and it's reminiscent of coffee grounds. And I just noticed there's a little bug crawling around in here, and that's a good sign that there are diverse species of insects, meaning that the whole balance is in place of microorganisms feeding off the nutrients, and then as you go up the food chain, the bigger and bigger organisms are present there too. So that's a good sign. This compost pile is relatively small, but this works on a home scale. So if you do start a compost pile in your yard, I would make sure that it gets to this size, this height and width, before starting a new compost pile, just to keep the volume up so that you can build up heat in there, and the heat indicates that the microorganisms are feeding. So here we have another active compost pile, and if you have the resources available, I think that it's fun to build a sort of box to enclose the compost pile. And really this is aesthetics, but it's also helping to break down the logs and the rotting wood a little bit faster, and it's a really neat thing to do, neat crafty project. So while it is not necessary to turn our compost piles, because naturally they will degrade over time, given enough time, it does help to speed up the process and to encourage heat to build up within the pile. If you turn it once a week, once a month, once every 6 months, it doesn't matter so much, but if you have the time and you're able to maintain it regularly, try once a week, shifting the whole pile and kind of turning it over onto itself right next to it. And this is to bring what was formerly on the inside of the pile onto the outside perimeter, and vice versa, the perimeter to bring it inside so that there is a more even distribution and it breaks down more evenly. So you can do this with a pitchfork or a shovel, and it's a lot of manual labor, but it's very rewarding in a sense. This is a little origami sprout that I made. Send you the link. Well everyone, I hope that you learned a little bit more about how to compost and how you might be able to try it for yourself at home. Because it's a really fun, cheap, simple, easy way for us to recycle what's already available to us into life-giving fertilizer, essentially, for our plants. And a lot of people think that you need one of these plastic containers in order to compost, and I've tried these and they work. They're a little bit bulky for me, and I prefer a simplified version where we're just accumulating the waste stream and slowly it breaks down by magic, by microorganisms, whatever you call it. But it's nature's way of sustaining itself, really, and recycling all that it needs back into these systems, so it creates a loop. So if you want to be a part of that, I hope that you can try it out, and I hope you learn something. This is Gardener Tess. Till next time, peace out.